ahead and start for those of you that are here in the room, and we hope that we can get our online folks up soon. The CASAS, okay. The CASAS essay assessment is designed to have you give your students a writing prompt, and then they type their responses into the computer, and right when they're finished, it does an auto score and gives a score report that tells them how they did on a scale. And it also will have a descriptor of the types of errors or problems that they had. So it's really an excellent way of helping diagnose students' abilities in writing. Next slide. I couldn't get that to move. Okay. That's next slide. So tell me, we're a small group in here, and I'll just ask you, and we won't worry about you coming up to the microphone to answer, because we don't have, or we would take it out to you once they get the sound working for our online folks. But why is it important that our adult students know how to write? What are the ways that they are going to be expected to use writing skills? Uh-huh. Sure. In the workplace, they need to know how to write. Are any of you, you folks that do test preparation, are your students hoping to go on to, say, maybe community college or an advanced training program? And they'll probably need to be able to do some sort of writing in those programs as well. Plus, if they're parents, they need to be able to communicate back and forth with their children's teachers and schools. So it's just very important for our adults to have writing skills. So the CASAS writing test helps the high school equivalency test candidates prepare for the exams. It's a really good indicator as they're prepping for the tests. It's also very easily used by English language learners if they have the ability to write more than just a simple sentence in English. And we'll show you some samples. And if we are able to get Bill Queese online where she can hear us, she can tell us how they're using it in their adult school in California with their English language learners, in addition to their high school equivalency students. So there's 4 different steps that those of you who are doing the hard work of teaching students to write. One is you have to kind of prepare them for writing, and then you ask them to assess their ability to write. And once you see what their current ability is, then you provide them with instruction so that they can increase their skills. And then once again, they're assessed to determine if they, you know, what they have, how they have progressed in writing. So that's the cyclical steps that are involved in writing. So what CASAS did, I'll just let you know a little history. CASAS has a program that they have worked in cooperation with other teachers across the country and developed, called the National External Diploma Program. And Margaret Kirkpatrick is doing a training on that right next door to us here. And in the National External Diploma Program, students have to demonstrate a baseline writing skill as before they begin the program. So they had developed with the assistance of people in NEDP some writing prompts, and then they did extensive field testing of the prompts, and then established this system of being able to have computer-assisted evaluation of the student responses. So then they decided, this is too good a thing to limit it just for NEDP. And they started a pilot project throughout the state of California to get agencies to try it out with their students and see how successful it was. And two of the participating schools in the project, one was Milpitas Adult School, which is in Milpitas, California, and the other was South Bay Adult School, which is in Redondo Beach, California. And so and that's what's referenced in our presentation. So one of the things that they first discovered is that it was important to help the teachers learn what the essay assessment is and how they could successfully prepare their students to do the essay pretest, and then what types of advisory work they needed to do to help get the students to make progress. And then they, at South Bay Adult School, they administered the test to students, and then they got together and reviewed as a faculty how the students had performed. And then they developed different instructional strategies to help meet the needs of those students. One of the things that they did that first year was to do a writing workshop in the summer. And they brought the students in, and they had real intense instruction in how to write. And they did that for about a month. And then they administered the test again to see what kind of progress the students had made. And if we could get Bill Queese to where she could hear us, she could tell you all about that, because she was the teacher that helped lead that process. Okay, this is what they did is, as a school, I don't know about other states because I'm not sure how programs are structured in other states. All my experiences has been in California. But I can tell you, as having been a California adult school teacher and then an administrator, that there are a lot of challenges that our students come into us with. Many of them are really afraid of writing. They haven't done whatever experience they had. If they were attending school elsewhere, made them feel like they were inadequate. And they really struggled with being able to think about what to say, how do we phrase it. I mean, writing was just a real drawback. And so what this school did is they developed a little video to show the students and explain to them what the essay test is and what kinds of things they would experience. So it describes for them, you're going to see a prompt. You're going to have to use the keyboard and type in your particular essay. And then at the end of that, it's going to score it. And then we're going to review with you what the auto scorer tells us about your current writing skills. And so that's what this is referencing. And I'd like to let you know you're a small group. I would be very happy to send you our PowerPoint. And if you could, please, let me give you my email address, okay?
Later. At the end of the presentation, every place to write it down, but it's K Hartley, Khartley.
No, it's, initial K. Initial K Hartley.
At CASAS.org.
And so if you send me that, I'll send you our presentation. And you'll see as you go through, it might be something that you'll find useful, okay? Sure, initial K, Hartley, at CASAS, CASAS.org. And you just send it to me and I'll be happy to send you the sides. So on the CASAS website, first of all, let me ask you, are you familiar at all with the CASAS website? Have you gone to it? Okay, if you were to go to the CASAS website, it's CASAS, www.casas.org. You'd find on the left-hand side of the website is a long menu of different things. And you would go there. If you look at the bottom, you'd see the actual address here for where you find samples of what is called the e-test sampler.
And in your presentation, that link will be active too.
Okay, and it's on the TE portal, and there are sample of CASAS e-tests. And then you'll see that this is the list of all the different test examples that are on the test sampler. Our reading life and work is no longer active because it's not a valid NRS test, but you have reading goals and reading math, and then you have the listening, and then at the very bottom of that list is essay. So if you clicked on that, it would take you, I think the next slide shows what it goes to what is called the sampler. And what the sampler is, it gives you a look at what you get when you go to into the CASAS essay test. And there's the prompt. Healthy eating habits are important, but not often followed. Why is this? And what can be done about it? So that's a sample prompt. The students would then type in their response to those questions and in the box below. And this is just showing how it's done. One of the things that is necessary for the students is that they have basic keyboarding skills. If they're not able to, type a paragraph, it would probably be beneficial for them to have some keyboarding practice. That's much like those that are prepping for either HiSET or GED, where they have to type their essays into the computer. But this just gives them kind of an entry level into how that will work. So typing skills do help. And I highly recommend, and all of you that teach test preparation would know, that one of the things that you teach and you encourage is the students to practice keyboarding so that they can successfully enter their essays. There's another set of questions on the CASAS website that are beneficial, that might be really good for those of you who teach English language learners. And it's called a language test. And it isn't something that they have not submitted it to NRS for approval. So it's not strictly NRS approved, but it's available. And what it does is gives them, this is a sample from that particular test, and it's basic language usage. So it's just a good way, if you're working with English language learners, or if you're teaching high school equivalency or high school credit courses, to give the students, a snapshot of whether or not they need additional work in English language structures. This is another sample test question from the test sampler on the English language test. And you can see that they have to make the appropriate choice. And you administer the English language test much like you do any other CASAS e-test. How many of you are using CASAS e-tests? Okay, so some of you are familiar with it. and it's simply one of the forms that you can access through TOPS Enterprise. So these are ways that it's useful to have an auto scorer. It gives you a snapshot of what the students' skills are. It's very time consuming for teachers. I know I was a teacher that, you know, back in the years when I taught in adult ed, it was before there was all the wonderful tools that are available on computers. I won't tell you how long ago I was in the classroom as a teacher, but I taught in California. A lot of the students that came in were high school diploma students. Our school awarded a diploma, and a lot of them came in with they were very credit deficient. And I taught multiple subjects, but I did all the social studies. In California, they have to take US history, world history, government, and economics if they want to earn a high school diploma. And I can't tell you the number of hours I spent grading papers. I mean, you know, just I felt like if I was going to give the students work, you know, I had to validate it by grading what they turned in. And it took just a really long time. And I'm sure any high school English teacher would say the same thing. You know, I assign papers, but I spend a whole lot of time reading papers. So having an auto score is a real good feature for teachers. And it gives the students a sense right away of how they've scored. I know our grandson just took the HiSET exam. And, you know, he was saying that as he was working through it, that the hardest one for him on it was the writing. You know, he had 3 years of high school and decided he wanted to do equivalency instead, and went through. And I know that, you know, the prep for the writing, it just takes a lot. When students haven't been doing it regularly, it's something that they get rusty on.
The important thing is that these students, when they take the test, immediately see how they did. And so they get feedback, the teacher gets feedback, they can get together to think about, well, what's our next step? What do we need to do? And the student knows what they need to do, and the teacher knows what they need to do, and they can work together to come up with the interventions.
So the way the auto scorer works is it's set up on a scale of from 1 to 4. And this is the way the score report that students actually see after they take the test. You'll see that a 4 is the best, and the student with a 4 has very good writing skills. Then it goes down to 3, 2, 1. And then if there is not enough for the auto score to even read, it gives them a message that it's unscorable. And this is how South Bay Adult School fared when they first administered the test. And if you can see, it's pretty much the classic bell curve. I mean, some of the students were struggling at the lower level. Some of them, the majority of their students scored a level 2. They had some that scored a level 3 and a very few that scored a level 4. This is a sample of student work scored that the auto scorer gave a level 2. So if you look through it and read it, you'll see that that the things that are bolded are errors that were made as the student did that particular response.
And they get that specific response.
So they said that what they would do is they would focus then after, as you can see, that they would focus on word choice. You know, the students need to think about what the words mean that they're writing and how it reflect back to that prompt. This particular student also was writing sentences with more than one idea. So they'd need to work with them on how you end a sentence and begin a new one when you're changing ideas, and then avoiding repetition. That's what the errors that were identified. And then down below, you'll see that there were several interventions that the teacher took with that particular student. I just feel very badly for you folks that you can't hear Bill Queese. She's very eloquent, and she could tell you a lot about what they did. Yes. You get this, you see the score. You know, I don't believe so. I believe you just get the score report. So this, like I said, in this particular pilot, there were the two, we're reflecting data from two different schools. One was Milpitas Adult School, and who they tested English as a second language students. And I think with English as a second language, it would probably be students that are at the intermediate low and above. Yeah, I mean, yeah, well, I think you could do it with intermediate low students. I mean, intermediate low students can generally formulate sentences. If they can formulate sentences, then they can respond to the prompt. But we know that go back a second here. And here that what the teacher said was that it wasn't their language skills, but it was their ability to stay on the prompt. I think that's pretty universal. I don't think that's just ESL students. Sticking to the prompt and making sure that you're really responding to what the prompt asks for is pretty universal issue. So here's what the personal score report looks like that the student receives. It has the scale, and then it tells the score. And the next slide is the narrative that goes along with it. So you can see that they don't just give you a number, they give you an explanation of what the number means. And I think that's why this is such a beneficial test for the learner, as well as for the diagnosis for the student. And once again, the two different tests, one is the essay test, the other is the grammar of the language test, which tests grammar structure and grammar mechanics. And this is the personal score report that you see on the language test. And you can see how it's much like the other TOPS enterprise score reports that are generated. But with this particular student, they had difficulty identifying nouns and pronouns. As you can see, they didn't get any of those correct. It really helps you identify what kinds of grammar issues the students need more work on. So can I ask, in your programs, those of you who are working with students, does your school have any type of course that does give writing instruction? I'm seeing some things nod and
Raise your hand if you have some.
yeah. And is it direct instruction where the teacher actually, stands up and or works one-on-one and delivers instruction to the students? Okay. And what kind of curriculum materials do you use? Is it teacher developed or is it published materials or what? Both? Okay. Mm-hmm. Super. So they're getting good quality writing instruction. That's great. Any of the others of you? How do you go about instructing writing? Ah, okay.
Going back to a previous question, I believe you had, do they see the writing? Do you actually see the writing? Whoever had that question, you only see the score. I just got that clarified.
So what South Bay did is they took a look at how their students had performed. And they thought, you know, how are we going to best support our students? And they developed an ABE, Adult Basic Education Reading and Language Arts Academy, and taught writing workshop and did writing workshops. And then I think what Bill Queese would say is that for many of the students, and because she was the one doing it, they did a lot of one-on-one tutoring. So it is time intensive. It does take a lot of work for the teacher to be able to, you know, support the learners as they go through this.
Bill Keys is on my phone, but she will text us comments if we have anything we've screwed up in the presentation.
I just am so sorry that the Zoom isn't working where they have no audio. It's just really a shame because you would enjoy hearing from her. So in terms of teaching writing,
They're doing, which is what they're.
yes, which is what this is the way they did it. They first found out whether or not the students could understand how to develop an outline. You know, at least, or, you know, I used to tell my students, at least make a list. Maybe you don't want, you know, you're not comfortable with a full outline, but if you make a list of what you want to say prior to starting to write. Secondly, are there, especially important for those of you that work with English language learners, what are the key words that, as you think about this prompt, what are the key words that come to mind? And make a list of those key words that you might want to use. And then a lot of students are intimidated by typing and keyboard entry. So maybe it would be less stressful if they wrote it out in paper first. You know, that way they can take a look. I used to tell my students, it's one thing to write it out, but the real key is going back and mentally reading it aloud. You know, here's what I've written. If you hear it, maybe you'll find you know, how you might improve or rephrase what you have.
Some of the students preferred writing a mind map. According to Bill Keys, they used a mind map to lay out their, plan out their writing.
So one of the questions, and I'm sure those of you that work with test preparation students have cautioned them to think about time management. You know, there is a certain amount of time that they allot for you to complete this, and you don't want to spend so much time planning that you don't have time to actually compose your writing. And then if you're working in a classroom, maybe it would be less intimidating for the students to work in pairs and to think together about something and formulate lists and think about how they would write it out. So three things that this particular agency emphasized for students is first, plan what you want to write. Then secondly, compose a rough draft, and then go back and evaluate your rough draft, read it through. I told my students, I don't care if I hear you muttering in the classroom. I want to know that you've gone back to reread what you've written, because so many times your brain knows what you want to say. It isn't always what came out on the paper, right? I mean, I know that's true for me now. If I send an email, I stop and try to reread it to make sure I didn't screw it up somewhere as I was composing it.
They get a message you didn't mean at all because it corrects it and puts something wrong.
So these are results from the pilot project on the essay. And in Milpitas adult, they found that on the first, when they gave the first essay test, they had 60 students, and these were ESL students, intermediate, high, and above, intermediate, high, and above, that took it. And then they were given 1 month of instruction, and then they were retested. And of the 60, they were able to get 27 students in at the same time to retest. 10 of them made at least 1 point improvement, and one of the students made 2 points improvement. And that's with just 1 month of instruction. Results from South Bay, you can see here. They ended up with, of the students who, and I didn't see the total number of students, 27, 25 students at least. Of those 25, 15, I'm sorry. Yeah, 15 of them made 1 point gain, and then 3 of them made 2 point gains. So, you know, the instruction did help. And that's when you administered both a pre and a post test on the same writing prompt.
And no, this is legit because it shows 25% made, 25 made, okay. And that's the real world.
So what they discovered, and they were working with a large, at South Bay Adult School, with students who were preparing for the GED test. Of their students who scored an essay test of 3, then they took the GED, and I think the next slide says, oh no, but if they scored 3 on the CASAS essay test, they were successful on the GED test. So, you know, so the test itself was was a good predictor of success on the high stakes exam of the GED. It'd be the same thing for high set. So here's comments from one of the teachers, and you can read it through. They said it was extremely important in helping evaluate the students' skills. And then they could do, you know, the school could plan interventions that would support writing. And then we have for you, and we'll show you this. This is a video from some of the students at South Bay after they had completed their writing.
But now, the word punctuation, everything, what comes first, and we're going to do that. And, you know, try harder than what you're going. So you can move up to move on with. What I think so, you know, that's what he was talking about, and he said, I'm ready to do one-on-one. Do any of you have questions?
class again. And you want to grab your phone, just send that, that's fine too. It's right on.
So these are
The next presentation tomorrow will be about writing. Paragraphs, essays. A lot of these resources in that 57-page, 57-slide PowerPoint. That'll be available tomorrow, and if you want that PowerPoint too, then ask for that too. Instead of asking for one essay in PPT or essay presentation, and two writing strategies.